All right. To hell with the intro. I mean, let's just get right into this. The Bruins lose 2-1 in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, so they're down 3-2 going back to St. Louis. I think we're all pretty ticked off about what just went over what just transpired over the last 60 minutes. I don't even know where
to
to
say
begin.
ticked off would be an understatement.
Yes, I'm saving. I have a lot of swears coming soon. Don't worry, they're coming
up.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my best not to yell incredibly loud because I just don't want to do that, and everyone in my house is sleeping. But what just happened over the last 60 minutes is just absolutely freaking mind numbing. Anyway,
stuff though, you got to start with the good stuff, and that would be the monster who suited up to play tonight 1 day after having surgery on a broken jaw.
Yeah, true.
Hats off to this man. Dave's jaw is just made of different stuff, and let's not forget,
he's a monster.
Yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of the 2014 NBA Finals. Game 1. LeBron James left the game because the air conditioning in San Antonio was off. Zdeno Chara suits up with a broken jaw, does not give a single crap about anything, and I am saving my swears for later in this episode, and just goes and plays, and he was good. He was not the reason that the Bruins lost. There was a reason that there were two reasons that the Bruins lost. One was bigger than the other, and we will get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, Zdeno Chara was definitely not an issue. I think there was a couple plays like the puck got in his skates, and he was having a hard time seeing over that little weird freaking like bubble or his fishbowl helmet he had on. But like, there was nothing he did that really cost the Bruins anything. He was no different than he's been basically the course of the entire playoffs, really the entire season. It was great to see him play there. I was shocked Grizzly didn't wind up playing because he did also participate in the morning skate with a full contact jersey on. So I was kind of shocked to not see him out there. What I think. And I don't know if this was one of the other reasons that you brought or that you were thinking of for why the Bruins lost, but dropping Backes and adding Steve Kampfer to the lineup pissed me off to no end because
I pissed off my friend too, but I was not as pissed off about that. There were several. Sorry, you go.
So the reason why I was pissed off wasn't the fact they took Backes out and went 7 D-men, but you basically you took out Backes and you added the worst defenseman you could have possibly put in that situation. I think Urho Vaakanainen would have been a lot better of an opportunity, or not a lot better of an option.
In this game, Kampfer was pretty good. He hit the crossbar on a shot. He probably, honestly, outside of the depressed goal, I would say that he had the best chance out of anybody on the Bruins tonight. And he made a quality opportunity. It just didn't go in and hit the crossbar. I just don't see your team that's been was not really scoring. It has not been scoring very well in the series other than Game 3. Your goals have been pretty greasy for the entire series, other than Game 3 where you just flat out dominated. But so your solution is to take out a forward. Now I know he's not much of an offensive weapon. You take out a forward, you add another defenseman, and what that does is it just kind of creates zero consistency with your forward lines because you have 11 skaters and 4 lines. I just think that was kind of an overthought process by Bruce Cassidy. I don't think if he wanted to take Backes out, maybe go Carson Kuhlman because when he played, he had been fine in the first couple of rounds of this postseason. I just think if you want offense, your solution's not to go to Steve Kampfer. And I know he wasn't terrible tonight. He did shoot that one off the crossbar, which is great. I mean, congratulations. He didn't score though. I just don't think dropping a forward and adding an extra defenseman helps you that much. I really think he overthought it tonight a little bit. But that's not the big reason why they lost the game. No, he didn't overthink it simply for the fact that he did not know how many minutes Chara was going to give him. He decided that he was going to put in 7 defensemen, and I thought it was a good call, considering 2 of the 4 games that you have played in the Stanley Cup Final up until this point, you would finish the game with 5 defensemen. They looked gassed, and that was partially the reason that you had lost both Game 2 and Game 4. You're getting absolutely dominated because you're having to play guys like Carlo, McAvoy, and Krug for long stretches of time. Now, the big thing to look at in this game, where the frick did Connor Clifton go?
Yes, I'm glad you also picked up on
that bum got at the end of this game. Because let me tell you, I want Steve Kampfer in the lineup going into Game 6 in St. Louis. Connor Clifton, goodbye. You've committed 3 big penalties in Game 2, 3, and 4. And I don't give a crap about this one little tiny goal that you scored in Game 1. Bull crap. Leave. You do not deserve to be here. This moment was too big for you, and you can't stand up to the big blues, the big bad blues. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Or all over the place headhunting. This pathetic little fan base, this pathetic franchise in general, is 1 win away from the Stanley Cup, and part of the reason is Connor Clifton can't stay out of the box.
Okay. Jack, do you have anything to add?
I'm just laughing at Twitter currently.
It's always a good time.
Just because I don't know, that's my contribution. I'm just pissed off. And I don't know. I'm reading currently an interesting thread that like should you blame the refs or like because hold on, let me actually find the thread because I just clicked off of it as you began talking to me. But I will find the thread and I will read the like point that this kid is trying to make, and see if you guys agree with it. But it might take me a hot second.
All right. So what?
All right, let's not forget though. I mean, we can dance around this all we want, but at this point, I think it's really time to put on our big boy pants and go and tee off on these refs on the driving range.
Yes,
here.
that's exactly what I was getting at. The difference in this game.
First of all, now don't even get to the blatant non-call at the end here. Let's start with the fact.
That's what I'm saving all my swears for.
Yeah, I'll let Jacqueline go here because
Okay,
did you find this?
So this kid is like trying to do things from a journalistic perspective, which I admire because he wants to go into that stuff.
I do not.
And
him.
I don't admire
but
it.
anyways, someone was saying that it's stupid to complain about the refs and call them green teamers for making excuses for the team losing. Do you think that it's okay to make excuses with refs, or do you not think it's okay? And do you think that it's okay? Because this kid tweeted like something about, it was like for one of the Celtics games, like that the refs sucked. And then he was just kind of saying that like, you can't really blame the refs for your team sucking. Like, does it matter about consistency, or does it matter more so about like your allegiance to a team?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can get to that within this whole. You guys may as well sit back, chill out. Let me tee off on this to start.
Okay.
All right. So for starters, how the frick is Brad Marchand getting a penalty for going at Jordan Binnington's balls early in the game? You call absolutely nothing when it comes to this. David Perron, Pat Maroon are going in on Tuukka Rask every freaking time, taking runs at him. Schwartz, Shen, the list goes on, and they get nothing. Nothing. They don't get any penalties whatsoever. Brad Marchand gets a penalty. Now, St. Louis didn't score on it, but I don't care because you're still keeping the puck away from the Bruins for a long amount of time. Then you got the freaking Sundqvist thing on Krug. How in the world that's not a hold? I don't know. Finally, David Krejci, the missing persons alert had finally come back. He is alive, in fact, and he made a nice play at the end of the second period. But then we get to the big one. Noel Acciari. Noel Acciari is going in, and I think he had at that point 10 hits in the game, probably the leading.
He was a monster tonight, probably the best forward on the Bruins.
Series, gets 7 after one period. This man goes in, gets completely tripped by Tyler Bozak, and Bozak's starting to walk to the box himself. He's like, I don't need anyone to lead me there. I can hold my hands up all I want, but he is the boy that got caught stealing the last cookie out of the cookie jar. He knows he's caught. He's going to the box, and they don't call it. David Perron scores, and yes, if the Bruins had lost 2-0, I can sit there and bitch and complain about the refs all I want, but it's not really going to matter because it was a 2-0 game. But the fact that they made it 2-1 makes it even more annoying for me, even more infuriating for me. I have not, and this is I will say I'm a lot more measured when I watch sporting events with my dad than I am with you guys. I have thrown a hat, spiked a hat, done anything like that since I left Emerson and we were watching with all of us together. The hat came flying out of my hand so fast after that Acciari one because my dad was looking down, and I don't swear. I don't do any of that because my mom doesn't like it, and I was just absolutely cursing the TV out. I'm ready to throw myself out a window. I was incensed about this call. It was absolutely atrocious, and it speaks to the level of just ineptitude of these refs. Kelly Sutherland and Steve Kazari are the two guys that have done games 1, 3, and 5. Those guys are the ones that are known for, quote unquote, calling it tight. Now, the other two, Gord Dwyer's one of them, and Chris Rooney, the South Boston guy, the guys that have done games 2 and 4, and they're a little bit more lenient, and they were not necessarily Bruins guys at the end of game 4. But I'm going to leave those two guys out of it because the ones you have to focus on are Sutherland and Kazari because they're the two that freaking Craig fucking Berube, the seventh most penalty minute getter in the history of the NHL because he's a dirty rat. Steve Austin, Brady Steve is on their bench. Another dirty rat. And this man, these two are captaining this Blues team because they are dirty. They're headhunted. There's no reason that the Sharks get knocked out. Now the Bruins are getting knocked out. Like flies, they're dropping one by one by one. And it's just, you can't keep up with it. The Bruins have depth, but not this much. And the refs refuse to call it because Berube said something about the refs. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? That's terrible. That's absolutely atrocious. You're a ref of the NHL, not a ref of the Blues. Seriously, get your head out of your ass. Go see a gynecologist if you have to. Get a colonoscopy. I don't give a crap. This is absolutely, positively the worst officiating that I've seen in the NHL ever. That's even worse than 2011 Montreal when they just took a dive all over the place and they get calls for it. This is as bad as Saints Rams. It might be worse because I'm a Boston fan. I get that. But that is still ridiculous. How can you allow this to happen? You've already had so many reffing mistakes throughout this playoff. Pavelski, that penalty getting a 5-minute for Eakin, that shouldn't happen. But you know what? Vegas should have killed it off. You got the Colorado offside, which I didn't really think was that bad. It was all down to a door. I really don't give a crap about that. There's the Erik Karlsson hand pass. Guess what? The Blues came back and won that series anyway. But if this call, Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, you personally took out Dan O'Halloran. I think Wes McCauley was another guy. You took them out of the playoffs for the rest of the playoffs because of these bad calls. You let these two morons onto the ice for the Stanley Cup Final Game 5, and you make that call, and you essentially take the game out of the Bruins' hands. There were, 8 minutes left at the time, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
How are they supposed to score 2 against those mammoths that the Blues have on the back end? Seriously, there's absolutely zero way that they were going to be able to do it. They didn't, and I'm not surprised. Now, I was trying to pull a reverse jinx in the group chat at the end there, but it didn't work. Either way, the fact that the NHL is allowing this to happen and can't get their heads out of their own asses is just unbelievable to me. It's pure bias. I don't know what else to call it. I really don't.
I think that the worst part was that the call or the goal itself was reviewed and they didn't call.
They can't change. They can call penalty on a review.
They can't?
They can't.
That's stupid.
It's like football. You can't, yeah. Although now you can challenge people. So maybe we should do that with the NHL. Challenge all calls. God.
That was absolutely atrocious. And there were calls all night that didn't go the Bruins' way. Now, obviously, the Bruins, what fans are going to look at, people who didn't watch the game are going to look and see the Bruins had more power plays than St. Louis, and they did. And obviously, they didn't capitalize on any of them.
Sucked on power plays.
The Bruins did suck on the power play tonight. So who knows if they get these calls? Maybe it's just more of the same. They don't score on these power plays anyway. Maybe the Blues win 1-0 instead of 2-1. Who knows? All I know is you're looking at. And I'm going to, before I go in on the Achari no call, how about the Marcus Johansson one about 6 minutes into the game? They did a side-by-side, I saw it on Twitter, of the Mark Savard hit, or the Matt Cook on Mark Savard hit, and the Marcus Johansson, or I don't even know who hit him. I don't remember who hit him. But the hit on Marcus Johansson, it was literally the same exact hit. It wasn't in the middle of the ice, but Johansson gets rid of the puck, and about 2 seconds later gets an elbow to the side of the head. We're talking about a guy who's had many concussions in his NHL career. He's probably one away from being toast. And, we're talking about a league that's really trying to crack down on these whole concussions, NHL player safety. They're going nuts. They don't want any shots to the head. Those are now penalties. People are getting ejected. People are getting suspended. And they just flat out allowed it to happen. Now, I'm going nuts on this because it's 6 minutes into the game. It's 0-0. The Bruins, I thought, in the first 10 minutes, flat out owned the play in game 5. I thought the first 10 minutes were all Bruins. However, you put them on the power play 6 minutes in, they might score on that. And if they score, it's 1-0, say 5-10 minutes into the game. That's a completely different game from that point on. And they didn't call it. And then I'll go off a little bit on the Achari hit too, because you basically took all the words out of my mouth on that because you went fucking off. Enough. It's fine. But I was on the phone with one of my friends driving home, and this is basically my way of venting, so that way I wasn't screaming at the top of my lungs the entire show. But that, honestly, given the magnitude of the game, might be the worst no call I think I've ever seen. Given the magnitude of the game. In hockey. That might be the worst no call I've ever seen. Given the magnitude, it's game 5. And like you said, if the Bruins don't score and make it 2-1, we're not really looking at this. Like, obviously, it's still a shitty call. The ref should have called it. And who knows what happens in that 2-minute power play that the Bruins get from there. Because, obviously, it only takes one shot to turn a shitty power play into a great power play. Regardless. They don't call it. It's 2-0. DeBrusk scores about 2 minutes later to make it 2-1. And you're like, oh, damn, maybe they're going to come back in this. But the fact
No. I didn't even say that. Because, I was trying to pull a reverse jinx at the end. But I didn't really have the heart to do it because all I did was look at my dad and I said, this should have been tied. It should have been tied. And I do have a couple of quotes here. First of all, from the NHL Director of Officiating. Ready for this? He said to the pool reporter on the Achari incident, quote, "We don't make comments on judgment calls within games. There are hundreds of judgment calls in every game. The official on the play, he viewed it and he said he didn't view it as a penalty at the time. AKA,
I hope he eats
for Vagisil. That is essentially what they're doing.
That man can suck an entire bag of dicks. That's a fucking horse shit.
Exactly.
Excuse.
Now, I do have Bruce Cassidy's best one-liner from the post-game thing that I couldn't remember before. Quote, "The narrative changed after Game 3. It was a complaint put forth by the opposition, and it just seems to have changed everything." Which is completely true. That's all it is.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. He's 100% right. And he'll probably get fined for that, and I don't think he gives a fuck. But I don't think anybody watching the series, from a neutral perspective, and I know, like, you can point at us because we're all Bruins fans. So obviously we're homers, and we think anything that doesn't go against the Bruins way is obviously World War III. But still, I think from a neutral perspective, like, I'm friends.
I got a Leafs fan agreeing with me on Twitter tonight. If y'all want to figure out how bad this call was,
my buddy Kyle, who is a diehard Leafs fan, don't ask how he's born and raised in.
As a diehard Leafs fan, sir, we're gonna have to ask you to leave.
Hey, I played baseball with him for 4 years. Okay, but he texted me after the game and he goes, "Dude, I hate the Bruins with all my heart, but you guys literally got fucked tonight, so hard. Like, that game should be put on Pornhub." That was literally his exact text. That game should be taken and put on Pornhub because y'all got fucked tonight. And I agree 100%. And if the Bruins don't score and make it 2-1, we're not necessarily looking at that Achari no call, but you're looking at the difference of the game being like a blatant slew foot.
No, I'd still be looking at it.
Well, we'd be looking at it, but we're not saying like that's the difference in the game. They scored because it also directly led to a goal. It's not like Achari gets slew-footed, the Bruins clear the zone, and then St. Louis comes back in and scores. Like, where they could where the no call didn't have an effect on the play. We were talking about Achari getting slew-footed. It's no call. He's hurt, so the Bruins are basically shorthanded when they should be on the power play, and then the Blues score right off of it about 5-6 seconds later.
It really was actually a pretty good game. Like, the game was well played, I thought, by both sides. Yeah, there were some dirty hits, but, like, in terms of the product on the ice, outside of, you want to call it, a couple questionable non-calls before that big one, I thought it was a pretty good game. It was back and forth. Both teams really controlled the action at certain points. The Blues owned the second period. The Bruins owned the other two. But, like, I mean, let's face it. The refs, I think they decided this game.
I do too. And I don't like blaming refs. I'm actually one of the people that
I'm all right with doing it when it merits it.
Yes, I don't like looking at refs and being like, that's the reason they won. That certain team won and a certain team lost. I do it particularly in baseball, like, because people complain about strike zones all the time, and I'm like, well, you had 9 innings to adjust to it. Eventually, you have to adjust to it. What?
Angel Hernandez.
Okay, Angel Hernandez is a special case because that dude's a fuck. I tweeted it out and said he makes Stevie Wonder look like he has 20/20 vision. But
yeah, that was a very tasteless one. It's still fun.
That was very tasteless, I know. But I do in baseball all the time. You have 9 innings to adjust to the strike zone, so eventually you have to adjust to it. But when you have no clue what's going to get called and what's not going to get called, and especially in a game like hockey where it's very physical, and you're talking about hits that are
it's not just very physical,
ending, career ending,
intensely physical.
Yeah,
Blues, just in particular, because they'll finish every hit, they'll go for you. I think Schwartz took not 1 but 2 runs at Chara very early in the game, and then 1 late where someone goes, "Oh, there was I think Olchek said there was an inadvertent flying elbow on Chara there from Schwartz." I'm like, no. This dude's 6'9". Gene Schwartz needs to get on like a step ladder in order to reach it. This was clearly an intentional elbow, in my opinion. I don't know what Olchek is doing because he keeps trying to explain away some of these hits. Like the Krug one with Sanford, he was like, "Oh yeah, Krug changed his angle." I'm like, No, that was an elbow to the head because you could see him push off with the elbow afterwards. If he just hit him, that's one thing. But no, you could see him clearly extend the elbow, so it kept going into Krug after he had kind of started to peel away. You got Steen with a penalty when he actually takes out Krejci with his head down, and Steen's arguing it all the way to the box. And then the worst one was definitely, well, outside of the Achari one. That's in a league all of its own. But the worst one was the Sundqvist one on Krug where they almost scored and Krejci made the save.
Yes, that too. Freaking clamps down on his arm and Krug can't even move, and it's no call. Thank God Krejci did his best Michael Ryder impression there. I would have probably left my friend's house and gone home and just not watched the rest of the game had that been scored. But that was absolutely brutal. The officials decided this game. I can't. And like you said, it's a shame because it was a really good hockey game other than those couple sequences where they literally looked like the refs were saying there's absolutely zero chance we're allowing.
White, blue, and yellow.
We're not doing the Bruins any favors tonight. And I just don't. And I brought this up before we started recording. A coach or a player gets on your ass about how shitty you're doing your job. Wouldn't that motivate you to benefit them with calls a little bit less? But apparently, all these officials got tight booty syndrome because Craig Berube got on their ass about being terrible in what it was game 3 because the Bruins.
Oh, Craig, I need to help you, Craig. Your team isn't getting any calls, Craig. Let me go help you a little bit with that. Yeah, Kelly sucks.
Yeah, basically.
His name even sounds like a.
Yeah, you know why you're getting called for a bunch of penalties in game 3? Because all you do is fucking seek the head. You know a great way to stop getting called for penalties? Stop headhunting. It's that simple.
Right. Now let me just say, and I know I'm reaching for at this point for these insults, just because words cannot describe how mad I was at the time, and still pretty much am. I'm probably not going to cool down for a while about this one, but going into the conference finals for both leagues, I wanted the Sharks, and I was worried about the fact that I would have to deal with Evander Kane being a dirty son of a bitch and having to deal with him on the ice, especially with his quote-unquote rivalry with Chara. Now, doesn't my pick of the San Jose Sharks looking real good right now? Because God help me, I hate this. St. Louis. Good God. I just the egos on these guys for doing absolutely nothing but playing dirty is unbelievable. Perron, Maroon, Sundqvist, they're probably the 3 bad ones, but you still got others in there that are just winning Oscars for their acting performances. Like
Tarasenko's in game 4 was atrocious too. Didn't the Blues didn't score on that power play though? I don't think. But
the Bruins actually won the power play battle in game 4 with a shorty like Carlo of all people.
Oh, right.
That's a totally separate issue.
But like that penalty that got called on Clifton, and he like didn't even make any contact. I don't think he even made contact with Tarasenko at all, let alone with his head, and it got a 2-minute minor, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And it just goes to show you how much this officiating has shifted years since game 3. And in game 3, it was just undisciplined by the Blues entirely. All the penalties were blatant penalties, and just now blatant penalties aren't getting called if you're wearing a Blues logo.
So to answer your question, Jacqueline, that you posed at the very start with that thread that you talked about, yes, you can blame the officials when the officials have a direct outcome on the game. If they were consistently bad the entire time, that's one thing. These guys made probably the worst non-call in NHL history. It's on par with Saints-Rams, and you see what Saints fans, and I think rightfully so, did, and are still doing after that game. I think the Bruins fans have a right to complain, especially if they don't win the cup.
What do you think about – because, like, the officiating in the Stanley Cup playoffs has just been crappy this whole time, essentially. Do you think that makes it less of an excuse for the Bruins losing this game? Like, do you think that because it's been consistently bad, like, you can't blame the refs as much because it has been consistently bad?
I don't think so. A missed call is still a missed call. I mean, you missed it, and this was obvious. It's not like one of those where it's like, oh, maybe Achari embellished a little bit, or oh, maybe like I don't know, I didn't have a good view. You could even like looking right at him. You can see Achari go down, and his head is the first thing to hit the ice. Like Bruce said, like Cassidy said, sorry, he's in the concussion protocol right now. We don't know what's going to happen with Achari. Maybe he's fine, maybe he's not. But he was taken off the ice because of that hit. And it was a dirty hit. Now, I don't understand how it doesn't get called. Maybe, I don't know if you can find them after the fact, but I think a couple of Blues should get suspended for this upcoming game. And I think outside of
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not gonna. but
No.
it should.
The guy, what was his name? Who's the douche that hit Johansson?
I don't know. I'll go find it right now.
Johansson, the one who
I
hit
should have heard of
Johansson,
the douche, to be honest.
the
If I had to make a guess, it'd
Stan-
probably be. If I had to take a guess, it'd probably be Sundqvist that took the run at Johansson. But
yeah, him. I think it's Barbashev. I'm
could have
not.
been Barbashev too. I'm
All
looking
those
right now.
fourth liners just piss me off, but that's a separate issue. They were like an entire team of fourth liners. What am I saying? Perron's a fourth liner.
It was Barbashev that hit him. It's the same exact. I'm looking at the tweet right now. It's a side by side of Barbashev's hit on Johansson and Matt Cook's hit on Savard. Now they're in different areas of the ice, but it's the exact same hit. Cook's hit ended Mark Savard's career and was a penalty. Matt Cook got ejected. Johansson's hit, or the hit on Johansson, didn't even garner a 2-minute minor. And it could have, and like I said, it's a dude who had a ton of concussions in his career. One bad shot to the head could potentially end his career too. And you claim you want to protect players at all costs, but there's a guy who's had a repeated concussion, who's a guy with repeated concussions in his career, and he takes a shot to the head, and you're just like, fuck it. It's okay. He's not wearing a Blues jersey. I'm not going to do anything about it. Ridiculous. But yeah, it was Barbashev.
I just don't. There's no way that anyone can consciously look at that play and say that the Blues didn't get away with one there. There's just not. Even the most biased person, I think a St. Louis fan can look at that and say that we got away with one. So
they won't admit it until after the fact, but yeah.
Yeah, we can keep crying about it as fans, but the Bruins have to move ahead. And they did, because DeBrusk made a nice shot for once. He actually showed up. Again, the APB that was out for him came back. But Bruins just didn't do enough to win the game and overshadowed the officiating and the Bruins' inability to just do anything in the second period overshadowed two great goalie performances. Binnington and Rask were very good. Rask in particular, not Rask in particular, Binnington in particular, only for the fact that he did not have the reputation that Rask had coming into the Cup final and during the Cup final because Binnington had such a shaky Game 3. He didn't give up many rebounds at all, and I was very impressed by that. And now that's starting to worry me a little bit as the series shifts back to St. Louis.
Yeah, especially with how great St. Louis played in Game 4. They basically owned the entire game. The Bruins kind of got lucky; they were even in it at the end. And yeah, it does make you nervous. The one thing that I think the Bruins have going for them going into Game 6, and I think Jeremy, you'll agree with me because you mentioned it. I think back in the Columbus series, or it might have even been in Carolina. The Bruins have won every single game they absolutely have to win in the postseason, and that's why this series will come back to Boston for Game 7. I don't think this series is ending in Game 6. I don't think so. And that's not just because I want the Bruins to win. I legitimately think
knuckles are hurting. You better finish this up soon.
I am knocking as well. I do think this series will come back for Game 7.
Well, it's now time for me to whip out my Patriots hat. Oh, what else did I wear that day? Puma hoodie and Boston Strong t-shirt because I'm working Sunday night, but I'm getting out as soon as I can. Probably around 9. I'm only going to miss like the first half hour.
My superstition this series has been that I don't wear anything Bruins because I haven't
anything Boston sports until tomorrow, Sunday. When I actually got to pull it out.
We're pulling out all stops on Sunday. We have to.
It's just mind-numbing that a game of such magnitude gets taken out of the Bruins' hands like that. I can't comprehend it. This is clearly what Saints fans felt like, and now I feel bad for laughing at them at the time because I wanted the Rams to win. But
no, I don't feel bad for.
But the Saints had overtime. That's the difference.
That's what I was just about to say. The Saints actually had a better chance to win it, especially because they won the coin toss in overtime. It's not like they had to make a stop. They won the coin toss and breezed through a pick. Like, that was in their hands. I mean, technically, you could say that this was in the Bruins' hands, too, considering, how many minutes were left after that egregious penalty?
8.
Okay. That is technically enough time, but it's so hard.
2 goals against a goalie who's standing on his head. And
exactly.
The defense, it's stout. Like, I don't even think we gave the Blues enough credit on the back end how stout that defensive core is.
I definitely talked.
No, I know you did, but I still feel like we might have even overlooked them a little bit. Like, they've played a lot better than I even expected them to, and I know how nasty that Blues core is.
It's the strength of the team. To be completely honest with you, I'm not surprised that this is what I was more surprised by the fact that they gave up 7 in Game 3. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't. I just can't. This is terrible. If the Bruins lose the Cup final because of a call like this, I mean, Boston has a right to be angry, especially with the fact that the triple is still looming in the back of everybody's
I
heads
know.
and win 3 in 1 year.
And
Like, let's face it. Bruins didn't show up for large sections of game 2, didn't show up really at all in game 4, and the second period in game 5. So guess what? You guys now have to go on the road and win. And at this point, well, I can see 2 comparisons happening. One, this is absolutely just looking like the San Jose Sharks. San Jose Sharks limped into game 6 in the West Final this year without Pavelski, Hurdle, and Erik Karlsson. Now, yeah, you're not missing anybody that's significant right now, except for if you want to call Chris Wagner significant. But like,
well, if Achari's out, then he becomes significant.
Yeah, you can't help but notice how wounded the Bruins are coming in here. And
Yeah.
at the time, I looked at the Sharks complaining about the Blues and said, yes, they are my second favorite team, but this does kind of sound like sour grapes to me. But there's some real validity here, and you could clearly see it after game 2. The second comparison I can see here, this is, and I really, really hate to say this, but if the Bruins lose the Cup final, guess who they are? They're the 2011 Canucks. They're a team with a ton of speed, a ton of skill, that capitalize on their power play a ton. And the Blues are the 2011 Boston Bruins who play really physical and want to get into your face. That's what it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Bruins should have won this series going away, just like Vancouver should have won in 2011, but they're not because they're getting out physical. Mm-hmm. And yeah, physicality is going away from the NHL, but good God, if Craig Berube, he's going to get a head coach. He's going to become the head coach of the Bruins. He's no longer going to be the interim. But if this style comes back and you get a bunch of dirty play, like this is the equivalent of getting Sean Avery to run a franchise at this point. Because good God, all these guys are just so dirty and they're getting away with it. Maybe we'll put Matt Cook as their power play guy. We'll throw in Rafi Torres on, I don't know, defense or something. And every dirty guy in the league is probably going to gravitate to the St. Louis Blues after this.
Yeah, I agree. It is a shame. And after watching tonight, and it hasn't been as bad all series. It's really just been the last 2 games where it's been so one-sided. But I've likened this series kind of to Tampa Bay last year against Boston, where you saw a lot of no calls that would have given the Bruins a power play that led directly to goals. And I thought, like, the first thing that came to my mind, now I know that goal last year was a game tire as opposed to kind of the dagger tonight. But the trip on McAvoy that wasn't called that led to a wide open shot in the slot that wound up tying the, I think it was game 4, I believe, last year in the second round. Now, who knows what happens if the Bruins wind up winning that game, but what makes it worse this go around is the Bruins had a tie game in game 4 and they wound up choking completely. They crumbled in game 5. Game 5 tonight, they scored a goal. Now, obviously, I don't think anyone really thought they were going to win, but you're still like, there's 6 minutes left, and all it takes is one rush, one breakaway, one power play. If the Blues actually get called for one, and they can tie and then send this game to overtime. But now we're looking at that the difference of the game being a slew foot that sent a dude to concussion protocol that was not called. And you say Chris Wagner's not a significant loss, but if Achari can't play game 6 because of a concussion, Wagner becomes a lot more significant of a loss.
Yeah.
Because now you have to you could just put Backus on the 4th line, I guess, or you can go Carson Kuhlman. But Achari was the best. I thought was the best forward on the ice for the Bruins tonight.
Who was?
Achari. Well, he had double-digit hits, and on top of that, he also had a really nice deflection right in front of Binnington that almost went through his 5-hole. So he was like inches away from also scoring a goal on top of being the most physical player on the ice for the Bruins. I thought he was the best skater, and that's going to get overlooked by the fact that he was the recipient of a cheap shot that didn't get called.
All right, I got ice times. You want to hear them?
Go for it.
All right, leading ice getter. You want to take a guess? For the Bruins.
For the Bruins. Is it a forward or a defenseman?
Defenseman. There's always going to be a defenseman.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm stupid. I'm going to go with McAvoy.
Corey Krug, 25-26, which is very surprising. He actually played pretty well in defense today, which is a change of pace. Next, you got McAvoy played 24 minutes, and Pasternak played 22, was the 3rd leading ice getter.
He double shifted a lot. I thought he played really well for the most part in the first couple periods.
In terms of the least, Achari only played 12 minutes.
Made them all count.
Heinen played for 8 minutes.
He sucks.
Brandon Carlo played for only 16. It's about 8 minutes less than what he's been getting.
I don't know why. And then Clifton, he must have gotten hurt.
Got those 8 minutes and 48 seconds, but I thought he made them count. I thought he was good. He was not bad. And Connor Clifton got 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Why this man was even here, I have no idea. The Rockland County Junior impersonation has got to go. Send this man back down to Providence and have him go golfing for the summer, regardless if the Bruins win or not. Have a nice day, Connor Clifton. Goodbye.
So you're saying you go back to the normal lineup of 12 forwards, 6 defensemen. You just put Camphor in a Clifton slot.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not putting Coleman in because he's going to get crunched by somebody. You have to put Backus back in there, but you also have to move Krejci, DeBrusk, and Backus. Essentially, if it's not already apparent, they have to be your fourth line now.
Yeah.
Because they've just been absolutely atrocious.
But now if Achari's out and Wagner's obviously out, you're going to have to probably put Kuhlman in also. So you probably just put Backus on the fourth line and Kuhlman on the second and hope that just invigorates a little bit of offense. Because Kuhlman, he's not a great offensive player, but he's got more offensive prowess than Backus at this stage in their respective careers. So my guess is if Achari can't go, because you already know Wagner can't go, it's going to be DeBrusk, Krejci, Kuhlman on the second line, and then the fourth line will be Nordstrom, Corrali, Backus. That's my guess. Because I don't know who else, unless they want to call up Solaric, but I don't think that's a good idea.
Corrali has really disappeared over these last 3 games too. And yeah, I know he's a fourth liner, but after the output you've been getting from him, I'm not going to lie, I did expect a little bit more.
I agree. And like we've been pointing at the refs a lot tonight, but my buddy texted me and said, you know what's one thing that's absolutely infuriating? Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Krejci, 0 points at even strength in the series.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable.
They live and die on special teams. That's all they do. They're exactly like Vancouver. It's really sad to say.
It's inexcusable.
I just don't know. You seem very confident that this thing's going to come back for Game 7. And I have no doubt that Bruce can get him whipped up into a frenzy going into the game. But is that really going to translate that well? I don't know.
My gut this is basically a gut feeling, and it's literally on the premise that they have won every game that they absolutely had to win in this postseason. They had to win Game 3 against Toronto after losing Game 2 in Boston. Sorry, no, they had to win Game 4 in Toronto after losing Games 1 and 3. And they won that. They went back to Toronto down 3-2. They had to win that game, and they won it. Then they had to win Game 7, and they won that. Then they got down 2-1 to Columbus, had to win Game 4, won it. And they obviously won 2 straight after that. And then ran through Carolina because they were fucking terrible. They shouldn't have been in the Eastern Conference Final anyway. But then they had to go in. I thought they had to go and take care of business in Game 3 against St. Louis, and they did. And they're going to have to do it in Game 6. And the thing is, the Blues have won, I think, 12 games on the road in this postseason.
Yeah, they're crazy.
They're not as good as they are on the road too.
What?
They're not as good at home as they are on the road. So,
right, so Game 6 is,
I guess. But if I hear this song coming down from the rafters at the end of Sunday night, I may throw something. I'm definitely not going in for my 6 a.m. work shift the next day. I probably won't. It's just, good God, I can't stay. If I hear Gloria one more time this year, I'm gonna lose it. I really am.
Yeah, I'm with you. Any last thoughts on the Bruins before we shift gears?
Tuukka Rask, great left to right save on Perron, who didn't get good wood on it, I think in the second period. He had a really good game. His defense did not bail him out on the O'Reilly goal. And obviously it was a power play situation with Achari down on the 5-on-4 on the Perron goal. So good for you, Tuukka, but we're going to need you to be even better if we expect to win this series.
Can't give up more than one goal in Game 6.
It's really hard for me to say that, but it's true.
Tuukka cannot give up more than one goal in Game 6, in my opinion.
Also, people are saying that they're likening the Chara moment to Kurt Schilling, the bloody sock game.
Not Schilling won.
They did not win the game. It doesn't matter. This moment will never matter unless the Bruins win the cup. Otherwise, it's a good moment. Good for you, Chara. You tried, but it's really not going to mean as much as it should. Because an absolutely heroic effort by this man, and it might all go to waste because of A, the officials, and B, the perfection line doesn't want to step up on 5-on-5.
Yep, agreed. And I think an appropriate comparison, if they don't win it, would be the Celtics of last year. No, I mean, sort of. Like, it was just a good story that wound up being they lost. If you lose the last game of the season, I'm stealing a quote from Moneyball. This: you lose the last game of the season, nobody gives a shit. But yeah, Jacqueline, you have anything else on the Bruins?
Well, not really. I just don't like the Blues. Anymore.
I mean, I know I was on this about 6 games before the rest of you guys were, but glad you're all here now. Come on, join me on the Blues hate hype train.
I just didn't realize how dirty of a team that they actually were until it came back to bite the Bruins in the ass.
I honestly didn't even notice how dirty they'd been playing until you pointed out Craig Berube had the 7th most penalty minutes of all time.
Are you serious? You didn't notice that before that?
Well, because I wasn't looking for it. Well, I wasn't looking for it.
More.
I wasn't looking for it, and then you mentioned he had the 7th most penalty minutes of all time, and that Steve Ott was one of his assistants. And I saw like the next hit, they showed a replay of it. I'm like, that's literally a flying elbow, and I'm like, okay, that might just be one hit. I mean, those things happen sometimes over the course of the game, and then it was another one, and then another one, and then another one, and I'm like, oh Jesus! And I looked back at the. I think you mentioned it, and it was either game 3 or 4, and I looked back at the previous games. And I'm like, shit, this is a recurring issue. This is a problem.
Scum of the earth there, Craig Berube, and little brave Steve himself.
Brave Steve. All right, we'll shift gears.
I see Steve Ott lift the cup, I may just off myself. I mean, I never watch the trophy presentation when one of my teams loses, but that may be even more just vitriol. That's God. Please, Lord, don't let that happen. Please.
All right, so we can shift gears into something that we can all probably laugh at. The Philadelphia Eagles have extended Carson Wentz to a 6-year, $154 million deal.
Yeah, that's just dumb as bricks. $107 million is guaranteed. They're so stupid. That's so dumb. He's going to get injured and be out for the season, like game 5 next season.
And they don't have they don't have Nick Foles to come bail him out this time because he's in Miami now or Jacksonville?
No, he's in Jacksonville.
He was in fucking Florida. Whatever.
Wow, you've really just given up with the swearing, haven't you?
I have. Tonight really messed with me.
Yeah. No, I just think it's such a stupid contract. Well, first of all, I thought it was dumb to let Nick Foles go. I feel like Nick Foles would have been a better quarterback to build around, considering, I don't know, he won you a Super Bowl.
And got you to the playoffs last year, too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Carson Wentz is just so injury prone. I can see him signing. Well, obviously, we knew he was going to sign with the Eagles, but I just don't understand why they guaranteed him that much money.
Because he wouldn't have signed it.
But see, this is the issue for me. I know I feel like I'm not going. I don't think you two are going to agree with me, but I feel like athletes are paid so much goddamn money, and it's so stupid, especially for a quote-unquote star athlete on a team. Now, this may just be a bias because I'm used to Tom Brady taking pay cuts, but I really and truly feel that if you are a true team player and you want the team to be good and you don't care, well, obviously you have to care about the product that you're putting out there, but if you don't care about how much money you're getting and you're just playing to play football and to win championships, then you shouldn't be taking that much money. It's like, what are you going to do with that much money? Nothing.
You're right. I do disagree with that.
Yeah. I think it's just stupid. I think that you should, obviously the best players in the world should be getting paid like the best players in the world should be. But I don't think that Carson Wentz deserves $107 million guaranteed in his contract. I think that the Eagles are going to suffer from that.
Is he better or worse than Kirk Cousins?
Worse.
You think he's worse than Kirk?
Carson Wentz is worse than Kirk Cousins because at least Kirk Cousins can stay on the field.
That's true.
The best
Cousins is kind of bad, though.
All right, fine. Put it in a vacuum. Healthy Carson Wentz, healthy Kirk Cousins. Who are you taking?
So we're talking pre-torn ACL Carson
No.
Wentz.
No. Last year.
Last year's Carson Wentz versus last year's Kirk Cousins.
I would take last year's Kirk Cousins.
I would take Kirk Cousins as well.
I would
Like
take
I-
Carson Wentz.
I can't. I just
He
can't.
has too many injuries in too many different parts of his body.
No, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know how many games off the top of my head he played last year, but I know a couple of them were in the pouring rain. I think his debut was also in the pouring rain. So I mean, like, it's tough to throw a football in the pouring rain, obviously.
Still,
but
make it work.
But yeah, you got to make it work, and he was unable
Adjust.
to do so. And he wasn't himself last year for much of it. I mean, he had a couple of good games. I mean, he's still a talented quarterback. I don't think any of us are going to take that away from him. He's not worth $154 million over 6 years. Because he's done. I mean, he was an MVP candidate before the ACL injury. So if you wanted to pay him after that, maybe. But then he comes back and he hurts his back, and he wasn't very good anyway. And Nick Foles won you a Super Bowl and then brought you to the playoffs because Carson Wentz couldn't do it.
His ego just took a knock because someone else won the Super Bowl for the. I mean, granted, Wentz got that team to the playoffs. Obviously, the first year.
Probably going to win the MVP.
Yeah, was definitely going to win the MVP.
And the Patriots would win the Super Bowl because of that curse.
And you telling me that you want Kirk Cousins over this dude? Really?
Yeah,
because we don't know what healthy Carson Wentz is anymore, or if he'll even be healthy.
He saw him last year.
And he wasn't very good.
He fractured his back.
And he wasn't very good.
he was on my fantasy team and he freaking sucked. He sucked. He got me 0 fantasy points.
As a Viking supporter, let me tell you, he was better than what Kirk Cousins was last year.
Well, Kirk Cousins just sucks. Like, this is just a known fact.
Why are you over it?
It was just the drop off from the year before. Because, like, Carson Wentz was, like, miles above, like, most quarterbacks in the league in 2017. Yeah. And then in the 2018-19 season, he just, like, he was average. Or a little below average.
He was a good NFL quarterback last year.
He was Kirk Cousins. He was good sometimes. Other times, he just threw picks. I think
Kirk Cousins is basically what you would call a small market player.
Yeah.
He's a guy who can play really well if he's in a team that doesn't have high
Wouldn't you want
expectations.
Carson Wentz because he can handle a bigger market like Philly?
But he didn't last year. In fact, he almost played them out of the playoffs until Nick Foles came in and saved his ass. And we don't know if he can handle the big moment because he didn't play in the playoffs 2 years ago.
All right, let's put it this way. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Aaron Rodgers. But I definitely believe he is either probably in that lower second tier or high third tier range. And that is better than Kirk Cousins. It's not better than Russell Wilson. Now, the market's only going to go up. And you saw a guy like Matthew Stafford get a buttload of money a couple of years ago, too.
At Bradford.
So I really don't know what you guys are complaining about with his contract. Yeah, he's not Tom Brady,
I just think it's stupid.
Which is why Tom Brady helps the Patriots win titles. Yeah, Carson Wentz cashed in. Good for him. I'm happy for him. He'll get his money. I mean, if he doesn't win another Super Bowl in Philly, that's up to him. I mean, if he wants to take a pay cut, he could take a pay cut. But I don't begrudge any of these players for getting the money that they believe that they're owed. I think that it's their right, like Mookie Betts, to go out and fight for every dollar that they can possibly get, especially in a sport like the NFL, which is so just up in the air as to whether you'll play year to year. The guaranteed dollars is the most important part. Now, if we're talking NBA, then that's a completely separate discussion. Same thing with MLB. But unlike like Mookie Betts, he can get, I don't think he should go for the 400. 380 is just fine considering it's fully guaranteed and it's definitely more than you're going to spend. Now, Carson Wentz, he could spend about $1 million a year just on surgeries in order to keep himself in the field. You don't know. It could be Sam Bradford Part 2. But at this point, I don't begrudge him for trying to go and get –
It's less of a begrudging on him than more of – because I just think it's a bad investment on their end.
At this time, yes.
Like, who do they have now? Like, honestly.
What about Alshon Jeffrey? They drafted a new left tackle that's going to replace Jason Peters. You still have a pretty decent offensive line. Their defense isn't great, but you still got Ronald Darby back. You got, who is it? Fletcher Cox on the defensive line. Jordan Hicks at middle linebacker. Malcolm Jenkins. So, I mean, they're pretty good. I think that they'll be fine, and I do think that the Eagles are probably going to win the NFC East next year.
Whew.
I don't think that's that hot a take.
It's not a hot take.
Who's their backup quarterback? Because that's who's going to be winning the East for them.
Sudfeld's decent, but he's not Nick Foles. I mean, we're not even necessarily overrating Nick Foles in the sense I don't think Jacksonville's going to be shit with him. But
Nick Foles wasn't even that incredible. He just came.
He was clutch as hell.
He was clutch when he needed to be, and that was the point, in my opinion, that the Eagles should have kept him.
Basically,
I don't know.
The thing with
it was a tough decision.
The thing with the Wentz extension that I hate, or at least from from a neutral standpoint, looking at the Eagles, it just seemed like a bad time to do it. Because if you wanted to pay him after the ACL injury, even because of the season he had, this is before you saw what he was going to be like after he came back. Now, obviously, Deshaun Watson wasn't great when he came back from his ACL injury for the first 3-4 weeks, and then he really kicked it into gear. And Wentz, I don't think was ever 100%. I think they might have rushed him back even. But I don't know if paying for the guy he was before his ACL injury when he came back and had another injury and wasn't great. I just think it was the wrong time to do it. It's kind of like with the Red Sox giving a $30 million extension or $30 million per year extension to Chris Sale before he threw a pitch in the regular season this year. He was great. He was a great pitcher, but has he been worth the contract? I mean, he's been out there, but has he been worth the $30 million? No. And I think with Carson Wentz, he's going to struggle to earn that contract for the first year.
They should have paid him after this season.
Yeah.
He tested it out. If he got injured, then obviously he gets another, pay cut or something. But I just think it's such a bad financial decision. And I think it's going to end up biting them in the butt. And I don't think that they're not going to make the most out of this signing whatsoever. I don't think that they will make it past they'll probably make it past the wild card round, but I don't think that they'll make it past they won't make it to the championship game.
The Eagles will not win a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz.
No. They won't even win.
They won't even be the NFC. They won't be the NFC representative with Carson Wentz.
I doubt it.
What?
I say, considering Brady's going to sweep the next 6 Super Bowls, I doubt it.
Well, I mean, Carson Wentz still has to get to the Super Bowl, and I don't think he'll even do that in the next 5 years.
I could totally see him doing that. Kidding?
Wow.
You guys are really hating on Carson. I didn't think I'd come into this conversation being a Carson Wentz defender, but here I am. I think you guys are really selling him short here.
It's because they're not going to have any money to spend on anyone else, and Carson Wentz is going to get hurt.
The Rams will have a ton of money to spend once Jared Goff gets his contract. Same thing with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. The Packers already have so much cash to spend after Aaron Rodgers got his mega deal. Come on. Every team is doing this. It's what happened to Seahawks. Another one. Mitch Trubisky's probably going to want to get paid for some unknown reason by the Bears, considering a janitor could do his job better than he could. I mean, that's all. I mean, yeah. All Mitch Trubisky really has to do is sweep up after their running backs. So, yeah, the janitor could do his job better.
Any last thoughts on Wentz?
The Eagles are dumb. They aren't going to win a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz will be injured. This is my hot take. Carson Wentz will be injured by week 6, and he will not be the starter by week 6.
Kind of like Kyler Murray.
Good move locking him early before the drama of the offseason when you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks want deals like Dak.
Okay. I mean, I don't have any other thoughts. I mean, I basically got my spiel out of the way with thinking it's just bad timing, at least for the magnitude of the contract that they gave him. I mean, I don't think extending him was a problem. It was the money and the guaranteed money. Let's
put it this way, though. You just let go of Nick Foles. You clearly just handed the keys of the franchise to Carson Wentz. You're not going to extend him because then you're going to be out.
Yeah.
Foles, no Wentz, and that's exactly what the market dictated. He didn't really beat Wilson's deal by all that much. He beat it by a little bit.
Do you think that Wentz is better than Wilson?
No.
But Matt Stafford wasn't better than Brady, and he was still getting paid $10 million more.
I feel like Brady's a whole different animal, though.
He is, because he takes pay cuts.
Yeah, he's an oddball. But look, you went Stafford, Derek Carr became the highest paid, then it was Matt Ryan, then Jimmy G, then Rodgers, then Wilson. It just keeps going. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So that's.
And when was the last time any of them won a Super Bowl?
Wilson won one in 2014.
Rogers in 2010.
Yeah. Matt Ryan had a chance to.
Exactly.
Did he-
Those
well, he
were
really
not
shot
recent. They weren't recent.
It was 3 years. It's not that. That's
Well,
not that. Rogers.
yeah,
Rogers was 9 years ago, so that's not necessarily recent. But like 3 years ago for Matt Ryan being there, and then 4 and 5 years ago for Russell Wilson, that's fairly recent. Matt Stafford has been in like one playoff since he got his extension. Derek Carr hasn't made the playoffs since his extension.
Oh, but they're gonna win it all this year. Got AB.
Yeah,
Gonna
they
win
got
it
it.
all.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
I always forget that he went there.
Me too.
It's just such a random place.
Who went where?
AB is with the
Oakland.
Raiders.
Oh, yes, the walking soap opera.
I'm just so intrigued as to how that's going to work. Wait, have they announced who's doing Hard Knocks yet? Like what the team?
No.
Oh my god, I hope it's with the Raiders. I hope it's with the Raiders.
I'm kind of hoping it. Oh, I think it's the Lions.
The
I thought
Lions?
I heard it was the Lions.
Why in the world?
Why the Lions?
I thought that's what I read, but it might have been. It
That
might
would
have.
just be kind of unfortunate. Like, no offense, but like, they're gonna be pretty decent this year. I don't know. I like Hard Knocks because it's usually a team that sucks, and like they did suck, but then they made a lot of good offseason moves. So it's like,
Give me the Tampa Bay Bucks all the time.
Yeah.
On because you already know they're locked in for 5-11.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, and you get to see James.
Like that's why I like the Browns one last year because it was just like they sucked so bad.
Yeah.
What was behind the sucking?
Won't be that good again this year. Okay. Browns won't be that good again this year. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all good.
Okay.
I believe I'm signing a coward on this.
Okay.
Disgusting.
Keep,
All right.
keep talking.
We should definitely hit on some of the Red Sox stuff too. Because let me.
Oh! I know the perfect thing to hit on.
I would take him in this bullpen any day.
I know the perfect thing to hit on right now.
Really whipping that water bottle after the Perron goal. I think he just became a serious candidate for the Red Sox bullpen.
Speaking of the Red Sox bullpen, Kimbrel signed with the Cubs.
Yeah, he did. For what was it, 3 years, $43 million?
They will regret this.
Which is 14 mil per season.
Absolutely regret this. Now, I completely understand that in a vacuum, these two things are not equal because the timing of them was completely different. But if you had to take Eovaldi, 4 years, 17 per, Kimbrel at 3 years at 14 per, which one would you take?
Kimbrel, 3 years, 14 per.
Thank you.
But I still think Nathan Eovaldi would be a phenomenal closer. The only problem is Alex Cora doesn't want him out of the rotation.
And I think it's rightfully so.
Yeah.
He's getting paid like a starter. He's not getting paid like a closer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like you maximize his
Craig Kimbrel money to close.
Yeah, I guess. But I don't know. Like I think this rotation overall is fine. Not with Ryan Weber in the rotation, but
I know. I got that notification today because I was at work, and it was like, Sox have reached into their bullpen. I was like,
in the second inning.
It's the second.
Yeah.
It's the second.
Does he look like Twitter again?
That's some Emerson bullshit that you're pulling right there. Reaching into your bullpen in the second.
It is Emerson bullshit, but the Sox actually won unlike Emerson.
That's true. You are correct.
Yeah, but actually there's one guy, and I mean, this is kind of just me being, I guess, a fanboy for like half a second, but I do think, and he was terrible at earlier on in the year, he was elite to start the year, dog crap from about mid-April to about 2 weeks ago, but Colton Brewer, I still think they struck gold on that trade. They didn't give up anything for him, but I think he's going to be elite next year. He's got all the tools to be a good pitcher.
I don't care. I care about now.
I agree. I'm just saying I think they struck gold on him, and I think he's going to be really good for them next year. But I'm with you. I disagree. Sorry, I'm with you. I'm worried about now too, and Kimbrel definitely could help out more.
I disagree. Thanks, Jim.
I'm sorry. I can't English right now, okay? But I'm with you. I do believe that
Jordan, you're dark.
At night. But I do agree. Craig Kimbrel at the money he's getting now, but like it's kind of a lame argument in the sense that he wanted $18 million a year when you signed Eovaldi. But at the same time, Evaldi at 4 years, 17 per, when he's literally only had about 4 good months in his MLB career versus Kimbrel, who's got a track record, I would rather have Kimbrel at that money. But yeah,
that was one thing, and then the other thing was David Price showing up in New York, eh?
yeah, that too. Finally, I mean,
Yeah,
there
that
was
was
no
awesome.
judge. There's no judge, or Stanton, but I'm pretty sure the numbers favor Price in those matchups anyway. So, but Gary Sanchez, he got him out. He got him out. It was wild, and he finally did pitch well in New York as a Red Sox, which is crazy because I saw like his numbers at Yankee Stadium before he came to Boston, and his ERA was like 3.2, and then with Boston it was like 11. He was terrible, but he was really good the other night. And the Red Sox are only 5 back of second place, and they have 4 with the Rays coming up. So they can get, if they sweep, they're 1 game back a second. So that will really be a good indicator of how the Red Sox, if the Red Sox are quote unquote back. But they got 4 with Tampa, 4 with Texas. I think you have to win at least 7 of those games to convince me.
Just to circle back real quick to the Wentz thing, I just saw a tweet that said Carson Wentz recorded the best third year in NFL history. Highest quarterback rating, I'm assuming this is 102.2. Highest completion percentage is 69.6. Minimum of 400 attempts. And he did so coming off of a torn ACL and playing with a broken bone in his back. He did so with no wide receiver catching over 65 passes and no running back averaging over 4.3 yards per carry. Let's not forget that J.J. had like a torn ACL by week 2 or something. Because I know he was on my fantasy team. He was a complete bust.
Yeah.
I mean, Wentz was not working with a lot last year. The Eagles got really destroyed by injuries. So,
but then Nick Foles had the same group and got them in the playoffs.
I think Jeffrey was back at that point.
He was not himself, though. I mean, I guess just having him out there is better than not having him out there, but it's not like he really did a ton. But I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot to talk about with the Red Sox. It's the same story all the time. Are they back yet? And is their bullpen still shit? And the answer is no and yes all the time. But
no and
yes. Well, no, they're not back yet, and yes, their bullpen's still shit. It's the same answer every time. But I mean, you'd like to. I mean, they did sweep Kansas City. Chris Sale finally got his ERA below 4. I tweeted out that it's the first time since he walked out to the mound in the second inning on opening day that it's been below 4. But yeah, and he had a second immaculate inning. I believe he was the first to do it, to have multiple immaculate innings in the same year since Lefty Grove in 1928, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's not much to talk about with the Red Sox. What are you laughing at, Jacqueline? Jeremy's laughing. Okay.
All right, Jacqueline, what was your final topic that you wanted to bring up?
Hold on. Okay, wait. Okay, so do you think that... Oh, wait. Did I do a little song for the final 15? Oh, yeah, I did. It's the final 15. Okay, so the question is, should athletes who play in a certain city unconditionally support other teams in their city, even if they're playing against a team that they grew up watching? Personally, I think that if you're playing in a city, you should support the athletes that are also playing in that city. So the reason that this came up was because I saw that Jason Tatum is a Blues fan.
So was personally. So was Benintendi, I believe.
Trade both of them right now.
So I personally believe that if you are playing in a city, especially a city like Boston, you should be supporting your fellow athletes in the city, especially if you play in the same venue that they play in. That is all.
See, I'm with you to a point. If anything, though, like, you don't have to go out and support them. You just have to support the other team.
Yeah, you just can't outright say, go Blues, when you play for the Celtics. That's just not how it goes, unfortunately. I don't know. I think that it's... Well, I already said my opinion. What are your opinions?
I agree to a point. Like, you're getting paid by an organization in that city, So I feel like you should kind of support them. But at the same time, I mean, it's not the sport you play. So you grew up a fan of a certain team. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of not fair to them to. You're not allowed to be a fan of a sport you don't play because you play for us. I don't know. Like, I don't think Andrew Benintendi and Jason Tatum should stop being Blues fans because they play in Boston.
I just don't think that they should be wearing Blues jerseys and supporting the Blues on Twitter when they are playing in Boston. I don't know. I just think that if you play for a city, you should unconditionally support that city, especially when you're one of the biggest stars on each team. Like, if it was like, I don't know, like Williams, and he was like, yeah, I like the Blues, that wouldn't be as big of a deal, but it's freaking Jason Tatum, who could possibly be the future face of the Celtics. Like, just being like, fuck the Bruins, I like the Blues. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it. I mean, they're getting paid millions of dollars, but I feel like at the same time, I mean, being a fan is great, and that's what we are. I know we're not getting paid millions of dollars, but I feel like you're kind of removing the child in them by telling them you're not allowed to root for this team. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with them on that. Like I said though, just don't be overt with it. Be like, yes, I'm a Blues fan. Go Blues. No, just like keep it out. Keep it
Okay, hey guys.
Guys, I'm a Bruce fan. Clementine?
Also, can we forget the fact that Pierce talked about the wheelchair incident?
Oh my god.
God, literally, the tweet that best personified it was the nobody, semicolon. Literally nobody, semicolon. We've all moved on from this, semicolon. Paul Pierce. Yeah, I used the bathroom. And I was like, what? I mean, I think I saw that on, I know Deadspin's not necessarily a great site just because they don't like Barstool, but I did see it on there that apparently he took a crap in the middle of the game, and this was like years ago, and that's why he went out. But I mean, just to hear him say it was really funny. And then Jalen Rose has no idea what he's talking about. So he's like, "You streaking, bro? You streaking across the court, bro?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, you don't remember that?
I remember that vaguely, but I do remember that.
Either way,
Paul Pierce just loves making headlines now.
I really wanted to use the Stephen A. We have been bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray. The rest, but I couldn't find a good place to put it in. So it's
any last thoughts on anything really before we wrap it up? Because Jacqueline's falling asleep. I'm also falling asleep. Jeremy looks like he's wide awake.
Yeah.
How in the world am I the wide awake one? I
don't know.
3-hour day yesterday just because I woke up at 4 a.m. and went to bed at midnight. I will say the funniest thing that I saw personally on Twitter a couple days ago was iOS 13 has a new Siri coming out, and Stephen A. Smith quote tweets it and goes, "Fine, I'll do it." That was priceless. Oh, when I saw him do that, I died.
Could you imagine if Stephen A. was the voice of Siri?
I left y'all.
I saw this thing.
No, it pulls up to a weed dispensary. You just hear, "Stay off the weed."
Freaking you ask, and he can't, like, when you ask Siri a question and she doesn't know the answer, she's like, "I'm sorry, I couldn't find that." You ask Stephen A. and he goes, "We have a problem."
Siri, Siri, can you look up anger management? I am in a very bad mood. I'm in a very, very bad mood today. I just wanted to. I feel like Stephen A. Smith as Siri would just be freaking priceless.
It'd be the best thing that ever happened.
And I'm trying to think of other funny ways that you can put him into Siri. I don't know. Anytime. I mean, you could use the let astray thing anytime that, like, you take a U-turn or you take a wrong direction somewhere. Then, like, take a right in 300 feet. You go, like, an extra mile and you take it. We have been hoodwinked, deceived, led astray. And just keep going. Now, at this point, I'm just keeping you two up. I'll shut up.
All right, so that'll do it for this edition of the Massholes with Mikes. I know I didn't do an intro earlier, but yeah, that's the name of the show. For Jacqueline and Jeremy, I'm Jordan. Have a great rest of your night, guys. I don't know when the hell this is getting released. Probably tomorrow afternoon, which would be Friday. But yeah, good night, everybody.
This has been Massholes with Bikes.